Hey, that's not rubbish.
Hey guys, it's Lexi, and this is That's Not Rubbish, the one and only podcast on all things upcycled, circular, and zero waste. Merry Christmas from me and today's guest, all the way from Germany, Mr. Philip Märtens, aka Taktonik.
Merry Christmas for me too, guys. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's so cool having you here today, Phil. I believe you're our second international guest, and I love your name. When I first heard about it from James, shout out Big Story Lab, you sound like a superhero, like you're giving like Transformer or something. It's like
Thanks a bunch.
a machine. And I mean, you are a machine, a superhero in my book, being an upcycler and all,
Stop it.
So yeah, you're blushing already. So why don't you tell the listeners what you do, like what you transform into what? It's quite unique. I'll let you say it.
It's basically all in the subtitle title of my company's name. It's repurposed material, written with an E. So it's a military logistical term, meaning mostly old military items like the stuff behind me, flight suits, submersion suits, but also old uniforms, parachutes, everything military, not limited to it, but that became my specialty. And yeah, I turned these old things with in the old motto and spirit of swords to plowshares into purely civilian things like bags, backpacks, mostly, but also other stuff, some clothes, some aprons. Yeah,
Oh my God, someone's got to do it, right?
someone's got to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, someone's got to do it. So you take old military materials and use them to make like really nice, high quality bags, backpacks, aprons, and more things that us civilians use, like you said. Yeah. So I mean, it's really amazing what you do and the waste that you're combating. I'd never even thought about the waste that the military goes through, right? Like it's not something you think about every day. So so we definitely got to pick your brains, hear more about the sourcing process. I'm a little extra interested in because it's not your average sourcing process,
I
is
guess
it?
so. Yeah.
And then how all this started, and then a little bit about Mr. Phil Tectonic himself, you know?
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, especially as it's Christmas, I thought it would be a perfect time for you to come on. It's a time that a lot of people get excited over presents and things, like what you're gonna get, what you're gonna give. And that's just not all that important. I think we're seeing in the world, especially right now, what we really look back on and get excited about are the people, the songs, the parties, the food. Am I right? Like the memories. So, yeah, definitely 'tis the season to take a moment and be grateful for what we have, find a little sparkle in the little things, appreciate our everyday people and the unexpected. So it's a very magical time, and giving things a second look is definitely magical. So before we pick your brains, let's get into some good news. You know the drill. Prepare for some magic, some more magic, Mr. Phil, because now there is a machine that turns old clothes into new clothes.
No.
It's called Yes, it's called the Tectonic.
Ah,
No, I'm just joking. It's not
I was thinking, I
I mean,
was thinking, like, is she talking about me? That's not possible.
it's possible. But this is actually called the G2G machine, garment to garment, designed by the Hong Kong Research Institute of Textiles and Apparels. And it's crazy. So literally a giant machine. And first, you quite literally insert a piece of clothing into the machine, and it cleans it, right? So first it cleans it, and then it turns into like this fiber web that is eventually spun into a new thread, like a yarn almost. And then once this yarn is made, the machine can actually go right ahead and turn it into a new garment using a 3D body scanner. It's insane.
It's really insane.
Yeah. Could you imagine if like every fast fashion giant like had one of these in their factories and they used it to like they put old excess stock into it to make like their new season of clothes? Like that'd be the
It,
dream. Maybe I'm just
it
getting
would be
excited.
amazing, and it sounds amazing because, like, for now, almost all recycling of clothes was downcycling because you never got the same quality of fibers because, the cotton has already been spun. You can also only make shorter cotton or shorter fiber stuff. So that's amazing to if they would really manage to get a quality product from it. It's not like a yeah.
Yeah, it's a Christmas miracle.
It's a Christmas miracle. It's completely the opposite. It's great, like tackling the problem from two ends, from the manufacturer and from the very, very other end of the food chain, so to speak, in fashion.
Exactly. I mean, I think you're the same
Amazing.
way. I think you're doing great. So enough about Hong Kong, more about Tectonic. Whereabouts in Germany are you talking to us from, Phil?
I'm living in Magdeburg, which is a state capital in Eastern Germany, about 1.5 hours from Berlin.
Oh, cool. Cool. I want to live in Berlin one day.
Everyone wants to live in Berlin, of course, except of the Germans who are like, oh, but everyone secretly wants to live in Berlin, of course. Everyone does.
The only reason I haven't moved to Berlin yet is because I wear too much color, I think.
Oh, no, in Berlin, that's all okay. That's the great thing in Berlin. I fell in love with Berlin when I was 16, 17, wearing my own clothes that were really, 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 really colorful, so to speak, in a good way. When I was literally being frowned upon here in the railway station in my hometown, and in Berlin, you're getting out of the train and some random guy comes like, dude, nice trousers. And I was, wow, blown away. So Berlin is like, in my experience, there's like, there's a lot of bad people also, of course, but they know it's not their city. Berlin is the
Yeah.
city of the crazy people. It always seemed to me like they were like, okay, there are a lot of crazy people. We leave them be.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. They're freaks.
Like you
Everyone.
can't be wrong. You can't be wrong there. It's yeah.
Have you ever been to the clubs in Berlin?
I'm not much of a clubber guy. I'm more of a flea market guy.
Oh, I like this. I like.
Yeah, I'm not much of a clubber, but there's jazz clubs, there's blues clubs, there's all kinds of things. There's not only the techno thing, and yeah. The techno thing is something different. Maybe it's something for you, but usually people who actually go there, they start at Sunday, 7 a.m. in the morning, they go, and they leave on Monday night.
Sunday
That's
to
like,
Monday.
yeah, that's like you think like, how do you get in there? There's like lines in front of Berghain for hours, and like, yeah, you can't come in the evening. You go Sunday morning and you leave Monday evening.
Oh my God. I heard it's so hard to get into the clubs there too.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. They're like serious clubbing.
Yeah, like they do like a vibe check and everything. Like if you're not cool, they...
Yeah, it's like when you go there, you can't go on Saturday evening, of course, because then it's full. But Sunday morning, other thing, other yeah.
Ah, that's when you can actually get in. Yeah. I'll go on a
And
Wednesday.
yeah,
Whatever.
you really need to want to party.
Well, I want to hear a little bit more about Mr. Phil before we get into the creation process. Like, I want to know, how did this start? How did you get into this? Like, what interest or background has led you into transforming military materials into backpacks? You know, like, how did we get here from little Phil to now?
Yeah, I think like the very short answer would be like your last guest, like Alex. She used to grow up on a farm and have the Western lifestyle and the cowboy lifestyle, and I was as a small boy, was a army nut, and then even more, though I grew very long hair, I still ended up in the army, and so that is my profession. That is like what I know, what I've got a feel for. Um, and I think to tie it in with the upcycling thing, when I grew up, I first had a contact with it when I was 16 years old. I met a local artist, and he had clothes made from airmail bags,
Right.
silver plastic bags. And I was like, dude, I need a pair of pants from you. I need. And he was like, your clothes are gonna probably being made from a 4-year-old Pakistani girl in slave labor, so you can do your own. And he was serious. And I learned to be a bit of sewing because I didn't have money for special clothes or stuff like this. And I was sewing along mostly pants from old stuff. And what was the cheapest fabric back then available to me? A military shelter half, an East German army shelter half for 10 euros, like $10. And it was exactly enough, like 2 yards by 2 yards for one pair of pants with the pockets and everything. So it's a match made in heaven.
Oh.
And then later in the army, I was doing my uniform and uniforms for other guys, like rigging, like we call it there, like the parachute. It comes from the parachute riggers. That in history, like in the Second World War for the Americans, were doing a lot of modifications on gear. So I became like a rigger I had a sewing machine in my barracks room and was sewing there at night and doing modifications and stuff.
What?
Um,
While you
and
were in the military, you had a
while I
sewing
was
machine.
there, yeah, I had my
Oh
own
my God, I
sewing
didn't know you
machine
were
in my
allowed
room.
to do that.
I mean, I wasn't a like the most junior enlisted person, maybe, so that helped. But yeah, I can go into detail later. But then when I left the military, basically, and came back to Magdeburg in late 2017, I began to separate. I was approached by a local art gallery I used to be friends with, and they were like, "Hey, can you make us bags from old air mattresses? These rubberized canvas, colorful." Um, Here, that one even
Oh,
mattresses. Can you make us
yeah.
some bags from them? I was like, absolutely, I can. I have no idea how to sew a bag, but absolutely, I can. And that's how I got back into sewing, and to tie it a bit into upcycling, and that's what something I think is in like a helpful message. Even in the military, you want to be a bit special, so it's not the kind of shirt everyone has. You need to have a
Oh,
very expensive one. And then you've got the 400 buck backpack, and everyone's like, yeah, nice. But then someone else has it, and you have to buy the 600 buck backpack from the Americans somewhere. So again,
ooh.
if you want to be unique, you either have to spend a lot of money and still someone else can buy it, or you do your own stuff and have the added thing of it being your own. If it's necessary to have your own, no, you don't need a bag from me. Any bag will do for me, any messenger bag, and some more, some less. But it's a bit more, you can give it a bit of panache. And that's something, yeah, how I came to it in the army again. It was like I saw people were like, hey, dude, I want something of my own, but I don't want to spend an endless amount of money on something somebody else can buy. So I need something handmade. Um, yeah, that was my approach to making stuff again from upcycling.
Yeah, like if you're gonna spend money on something, may as well make it something no one else has, right? Add a little pizzazz, like you said. I like that. I like it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Pizzazz. So wait, I let me ask a question. So I'm not a big military girly. Like, so please forgive me
Yeah.
if I mix up military,
But
army,
of
like all
course,
those words. I didn't even know. Is there a difference between military and army?
I usually a military is like a term for the militaries, all the armed forces of a country, and the army in the strict word is the land forces, like Army, Air Force, Marines, Navy. In the US, for example, Coast Guards,
Yeah.
Space Force. The army is like it's a colloquial term for everything, especially in Germany. But strictly speaking, it's the land forces.
Okay. And so I thought when this is so silly now that I'm hearing you talk, but I thought like when you join the military, like they gave you like a little outfit and like they give you a bag and they give you everything you need, but you actually have to buy all that yourself?
No, you don't have to buy on this. It's quite the opposite. You're usually not allowed to buy it. Because of
Oh.
course, uniform comes from the word uniformity. You need a
Mhm.
uniformity, like in your approach, how you're being perceived in public, down to being recognizable as a combatant by the law of land war, or like the Hague Conventions, how we call it, stuff like this. There's defined that you have to look like a combatant to be considered a legitimate soldier. But it depends all on your unit, the army, like in the US Army, like if you're in a line unit in barracks duty, your uniform has to be pressed and everything. Also where I was working. But when we were out in the field, people were like, yeah, you have to use your stuff every day. So if you're doing modifications and it's vaguely in the same shape, in the same form of your issued gear, if it's got the same flame resistant properties, whatever, in our unit it was okay. Next door maybe it was something different, but we in my parts of the German army it was something like paratrooper. We were very lenient with if you were doing a good job, that was what counted. And yeah, and the other good thing by upcycling was, of course, the stuff I used to sew with were all uniforms. So they already checked inspection. So it was by definition had the same flame retardant properties and stuff like this. It was another argument, so to speak, to sell my stuff to
Oh,
superiors, being
there
like,
you
it
go.
is the same shape. It is because it used to be an old field blouse or jacket. But yes,
Yeah, it's I am you. You can't say anything. Yeah, exactly.
but to be sure, and to end that thing, you can
Yeah.
talk to the next German soldier, and he will say absolutely he was never allowed to have his own gear. That's also possible. It is like a gray area. Even today, it's a gray area. When they try to form it into mandatory things, it's a gray area. People usually buy their own boots because they like them more and stuff like that. And yeah. So
course. And like I know what you mean, like having a little bit of uniqueness, like
mm,
I feel like you go crazy if you're seeing the same and you're being the same as everybody else all the time. Like, oh,
it depends.
but you're not in the military anymore, but you
Yeah,
still wear a lot of camo.
I tend to. I
So
tend
every
to.
day you're just
Yeah, I
like,
tend to. I mean, I put the shirt on specially. I had a seamstress made for me.
ooh,
Like a it's like a cooking shirt or a cooking jacket, a chef's jacket.
I
I
like
made in a there's a tiger stripe pattern or I had made. I can't do that perfectly myself. Yeah, I tend to do. I mean, I love it, and it's kind of a corporate thing now for me, so to speak. It's corporate identity, like Tom Sachs, the master of corporate identity. It's like, yeah, a bit of camouflage every day. I tend to do pants one color and the top in camouflage, or vice versa, camouflage pants, and then I don't wear a camouflage top. So that's my rule.
never camo on camo.
About one camouflage a day. Yeah, that's really some. That's really what like my wardrobe is sorted. It's the camouflage tops and the non-camouflage tops and the camouflage pants and the non-camouflage pants.
Yeah. I was gonna say we should normalize camo on camo, but I don't know. That might be scary.
I, yeah, for myself, you do look a bit like a tall soldier boy or something.
Yeah, everyone would be like, it would be scary. I don't know, but like
It would,
that. Do you like the non-military camo? Because there is a difference, like the patterns and like the organic shapes. How do you feel about the modernized camo?
Oh, I love it. First thing, I have
Okay.
not a single qualm against commercial fashion companies using camouflage stuff like I do, because it's nothing. I know how soldiers treat their camouflage. It's not like they are like, this is my holy blouse and this is like treated with honor or some bullshit. Yeah, yeah, fuck off. It's like an everyday item, First thing, if it's 4 o'clock, we've got after parole,
Camo time.
they're like, bam, out of it. On the autobahn. It's like nothing special. So I don't have any qualms of civilians using any camouflage and civilian patterns. I love them usually. It's a great, I mean, there are some great inventions, some great fashion things. I think Dior or one of the big fashion houses, they did a colorful camouflage thing a year or two ago. I don't
Huh?
remember. It was Dior, one of the
Oh,
very,
camo's been
very,
huge.
very high-end fashion houses, and they did some camouflage thing, like a spiel on it. And I like that very much. Why not? I don't have any problems with that now.
You should have seen Louis Vuitton's Pharrell Williams Louis Vuitton fashion show this year.
Yeah.
They did like a lot of pixelated camo, or with
Ah,
like the digital. There's also
nice.
that I sometimes. So many camos. So
Nice one. Yeah.
many shades of
So many
camo.
camos. So many. You should see my collection. So
Oh,
many
you're like,
camos. That's what everyone tells me. Phil, so many camos on you. It's like,
you're like, I already know. I am camo. Yeah.
yeah, I am camo. Exactly. I'm not fashion. I'm camo. I don't imitate. I am camo.
Okay. So the reason why I need to hear about your sourcing process is because like most upcyclers are essentially like thrift flippers. They'll go thrifting, pick up some materials, rip stained, no home, and turn them into something new. But you definitely don't have your average sourcing process, right? Like how do
Maybe.
how do you even go about getting your hands on this old military gear?
The first thing is, I don't know. I think that maybe is like a hen and egg question. What was first? The things I want to make, and that's why I source military stuff, or I came to military stuff, and that's why I'm having to make the things I'm making. So
Right.
I don't know exactly. The thing is, I usually can't go thrifting because, especially in Eastern Germany, there's not much of a military theme. Let's be honest, especially in Germany, militaria is a bit frowned upon because of the history associated with it. It is what it is. I can like it, I cannot like it. It is what it is. So usually when there's a big flea market in town, like we're talking big one, like 200, 300 vendors, there's like one guy selling militaria, and it's a
Oh,
shady guy.
it's a
So you're
shady
like, okay,
guy.
he's got like fake Wehrmacht bus and stuff like this, like bullshit. You're like, of course, people won't like your thing because it's backward thinking, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I usually don't find stuff on flea markets. If I find it, it's usually cheap because people don't know what it is. So
Yeah.
what I'm doing usually, a lot of stuff basically is eBay. I scrunch eBay, not for particular things, because they usually, if someone knows what it is, it's expensive. It's for collectors, so it's not for me to cut up
Right.
by definition. So I go to like the militaria thing in eBay we have in Germany, and I type in pants and only auction. So it's like 450 entries, and I go through. Maybe there's an interesting pair of pants. If someone found like general army pants, I found. Maybe it's something interesting and I get a cheap hit on that. Or I bid on lots, like army stuff found on the attic.
Uh-huh.
And then I bid on it, and there's a duffel bag, a shelter half, a this or that. Something not too peculiar, but like olive drab canvas I use for my everyday use, so to speak. Also, I do have certain dealers. Yeah, now I like to say that deal in wholesale military stuff, because in Germany everything it's similar in the army. I think in the US all stuff sold by the army is sold through one company, and you have to bid on lots, and they're like 2,000 pieces of uniforms weighing 1.5 tons, and you have to bid on that. And one of the guys, he's sorting out oddballs for me, and especially stuff not worthy for collectors. Like behind me, there's that's a G suit, like a jet pilot suit. He's wearing it. It's compressing, complicated. But they have lots of zippers, as you already see, lots of brass zippers.
Yeah.
And if there's like a major one broken, he says it's not good for collectors because they want pretty pristine stuff, most of them. So I get them on the cheap, and I can spend the night with an X-Acto knife and cutting out opening the seams and getting the zippers from them. That's another major source. And of course, people bring me stuff. Of course, usually non-military stuff like tents and stuff like that, old air mattresses, and like, hey, you can still need this stuff. And if I need it, it's like, of course, bring it onto the big pile of stuff to be salvaged. And yeah, that's mainly how I get my stuff. Yeah,
Wow.
because it has to be affordable as well as being something cool,
Of course.
because otherwise it doesn't make sense cutting it up from a historical point of view and from a financial point of view as well.
Yeah, you're definitely dealing with a whole new set, like a code of ethics out there with the military stuff, because it sounds like you attract a really interesting niche of people, like people that are like really into like the military, obviously, and then
Sometimes. It's not that much, to be honest. It's usually when a local asks me like, "Hey, dude, your stuff is bought by military nut shop." I say, "No, usually not. Usually it's like what they call garmsmen now. You know, people in this magazine Heritage Post here, like people wearing gentlemen wearing corduroy or expensive stuff and having one piece of vintage camouflage on their back. That's basically that's a lot of my customers. Yeah, people like that. Yeah.
their statement piece. Yeah, well, as we've said, the camo is modernizing, so it's like
Yeah.
not even doesn't really have military connotation to it anymore, except that you're
Yeah.
reworking old military stuff. But that's also just cool. Like, yeah, it's amazing. And the more that I'm hearing about it, I'm definitely acknowledging that, military stuff is built a certain way to like to withstand like certain conditions and combat. And so they're pretty like sturdy materials. So it's great for the products that you're making. It's like a whole different set of quality. Like this is top-notch stuff.
And it's usually made in country. So, like example,
Mhm.
most German uniforms are made in Germany. So, how can you get a fabric made in Germany? It's
Yeah.
not you don't get German fabric, German clothes usually. Or in America, a lot of it has to be very compliant. So, it's made in America or somewhere else. So, you're getting for very, very low price. Prices are changing all the time, fluctuating, but you got like for a few bucks, you got a German field blouse or a shirt, and it was made in Germany in a German small factory. Usually you don't even know them. You just see the name, the manufacturer, and the label. And you're like, yeah, I'm getting a hopefully ethically sourced even in the production. Even as I'm recycling, it's like a bonus on top to it not having been made in a sweatshop.
You're above all the other materials. We want the best of the best or nothing,
It's
right? Get out of here.
I not really like I told you, I'm not having an agenda or something. I'm doing what I'm doing. What the other guys are doing, if I can't sue or I can't upcycle, I
Yeah.
say go ahead, buy your fabrics from the wall. It's not, yeah, do what you think. That's just what I do because I
Fun.
enjoy the process of salvaging also. It's like deeply, like for me, deeply soothing, putting on a DVD or a good podcast or a YouTube documentary, getting out the X-Acto knife and cutting open the seam by seam by seam by seam of all fabric
Very
uniforms. Yeah.
therapeutic, right?
Yeah, very therapeutic, exactly.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
nice. And I mean, why wouldn't you be doing what you do? It sounds like all stars align. But I do want to hear more about like just like in general, like where does old military gear even go? Like
In
once it's
Germany, I can speak for like the country I've got experience with, like Germany.
right,
A lot of country have a different one. Um, Everything the army and a lot of municipalities auction off is auctioned by a company in Germany. It's called the FEBEC, and they sell everything from an old warship. They sell for salvaging over cars, military cars, trucks, gear, stuff, whatever, down to uniforms. Like I said, you're literally bidding on a metric ton or 2 metric tons of male overgarments, various, about 200 jackets, 300 whatever. That's the prescription you get, and you're bidding on it.
right.
They are not selling camouflage fabric, camouflage uniforms anymore
Oh,
because for two reasons. That was a big thing, and I think it's gonna. You see it on the market now. It's a NATO thing. NATO like suggests that armies don't sell their camouflage uniforms anymore in Europe because of they think maybe they get into wrong hands. Like especially in Ukraine in
right.
2014, you saw whole units of rebels, so to speak, there. Um, Wearing German uniforms, even with the flags and everything on it. So that's a
Yeah.
political thing people are a bit afraid of it because German uniforms used to be the cheapest on the world market, together with British and some American uniforms were like the cheapest you could get on the world market. That's the reason. And also for Germany, they say it wasn't like you had to sort it and everything. And they said it's just not worth it anymore without conscription. We have so many less soldiers going through the army, cycling through the army, and so much less waste we have. It's not worth it. We just shredded everything. Yeah, that's another thing you have to keep in mind. A lot of countries even have laws against camouflage ownership by
Oh,
civilians. Yeah, there's videos online. Just type on legality of camouflage or whatever. There's a YouTube guy, Uniform History, and they made a video particularly on which countries it's not allowed to wear or own camouflage. Yeah.
we'll link it in the description. Perfect. It sounds like there isn't too much waste amongst the military world. Like if all of it's being sold and reused, like
Well, it comes down to a thing of economics again. You know, there was a time when everything was they had a tailor in every barrack or in every like major military installation, so to speak, or in every garrison. Oh, that's the right word. And then in the 90s, early 2000s, they privatized it. So everything was sold out. You just came with the uniform. They weren't even looking at it. They were like, I have to change because, yeah, we don't get what size do you need? There's the new one. The old one gets thrown away. Then again, they started repairing stuff again because they said it's too expensive. People are handing in too much stuff. We have to repair it again. So it's always a yin and yang with the economics, of course. What's more economic for the moment? You know, with lots of recruits going through, there's a lot of I don't know. I don't know if there's really a lot of waste now that they're shredding uniforms because I don't know how many they are really going through. I mean, they last for years unless they really rip up or lose their color or something like it.
well, I will say I do like hearing that they're not just like, oh, this is a sweaty uniform, let's throw it away. And that they have acknowledged, like in the past, that ancient perspective that the materials that we have are good, they're sturdy, we put a lot of work into them. Let's just fix it instead of making a new one. So I think that's a good perspective to adapt. I like that. And like you said, it's more economic, it's more resourceful. Like, why not? Why wouldn't
Exactly.
that be
Yeah.
the way it's done?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I like this. I can get behind it.
Yeah.
Salute. Yeah. And so you work with German military gear, or have you come across like other
Everything,
countries
everything,
pre?
everything. German is the
Oh,
minority because my customership is international. I think three-quarters of my turnover I make internationally, and most of that in the US. So no,
mhm.
I don't exclusively work with German stuff. No, quite the contrary. It's the
Nice.
minority of stuff I work with because I see it every day.
Nice.
I saw it every day.
Yeah, you're like, I'm over it. Let's get to the next.
Yeah, no,
So like
no.
what country's military is like the most fashionable? Like what's your favorite?
The most fashionable. Oh, now we're treading deep water here.
Oh.
There's a lot of interesting things. What I like personally is when they're purposely hiding figures in it or shapes, so to speak. There's always something like soldier lore when they're like, oh, this is like called whatever, you know, this shape.
Oh,
There's also countries like Croatia, and they incorporated their country's shape on the map into the pattern.
I like that.
Like with the islands and everything, it's a digital pattern, and there's the country of Croatia in it repeatedly.
That's sweet.
There's countries like the United States Marine Corps incorporating their Eagle Globe and Anchor logo, stuff like that. I like that a lot. When they're hiding some shapes in it, that's a cool thing. I think I have a very like the Croatian desert pattern has a very distinct Croatia every meter, every yard or something. It's
We'll crown
repeated.
Croatia the winner. I like that. Go Croatia. And that's really cool. Do you know much about like the history of camo? Like,
Yeah, I do. I think I do. Basically, blending and distortion. You want to blend into what's behind you and you want to distort your shape. And that's basically every camouflage there is a combination of blending and distortion. And yeah, if you keep that in mind, it's like, whoa, of course, I see it. Yeah, now I see everything. This is like supposed to disrupt. It's not ending here. It's not a white line around me, but it's going over the edges. So it's kind of distorting the human shape. Yeah, stuff
and like
like
they're
that.
organic shapes, neutral colors. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
stuff like that. And it's usually a combination because if you're in front of a white background in snow, of course you can wear white and then it's only blending, but you're moving. And as soon as you're moving, it becomes important to distort the shape, whatever you're hiding, a vehicle, a top, yourself,
That
whatever.
makes sense.
And if you keep that in mind, you've got camouflage worked
Ah.
out. Blending and distortion.
Like,
You have to blend into the background and distort your shape.
I can do that. I can do that. So, would you mind digging deeper on your inspiration? You know, like you have your materials. How did you land on like the signature bags and aprons that you are known for making?
The shape is something defined by my technical abilities and what I needed. Like my signature messenger bag is a hundreds of years old cut, so nothing very big particular or something special.
Mhm.
But what I've got a kind of a hand for, or kind of a taste for, is combining patterns set in a certain timeline. So, for example, and that's an approach maybe for other upcyclers they can use for their topic. My specialty is military, but you can use it for a movie or something to get the taste of a scene, like very famously Wes Anderson movies. They have the pastel colors and stuff. There's accidentally Wes Anderson, the movie, the books and everything. So he found a color palette, and I try to do the same with bags, like an iconic photo, like a time of like a time of conflict, like Vietnam War or something. Um, or like a movie where they used camouflage, and I try to form the influences, the colors I see there into a bag, so that that bag could have been made in that time frame by a rigger, by the guy himself, by a tailor he gave the fabrics to make a bag from. And that's
Wow.
not like reenactment, it's more like a cosplay thing. It's like not the main character, but what would have the guy looked like next to the main character in Star Wars,
If
for
you're in the
example.
movie yourself, what would you be wearing?
Yeah,
That's
stuff
amazing.
like that.
That's
So it's
amazing.
not 100%, usually soldiers they don't give a damn because they're like, I need a practical thing, it has to work, that's it.
Right.
But every now and then there's some guy like me or a crazy guy, and they're like, I really need something special or I want something cool. Like one example are tour jackets. They had the like blankets in Vietnam made into jackets with embroidery. Like I spent time in Saigon from then to whatever, and they were called tour jackets, and like they were souvenirs. In Afghanistan, they had wax made with military symbols and stuff like that, or T-shirts printed like Delta Company, whatever,
Yeah.
in Afghanistan, and stuff like that. And that's my inspiration. And I try to make something that could have been made there, that could have been made in the movie. It's the right pattern, it's the right proper material. Of course, it wasn't in the movie. Of course, it wasn't in real time. They didn't make messenger bags because the soldier doesn't need a messenger bag. It's slinging around all the time. But that's my inspiration usually. Like an iconic, I try to catch it. Like the accidentally Wes Anderson guys try to catch scenery that could be from a Wes Anderson movie. I'm trying to make bags that could be in a certain setting. Like, yeah, they would have had that kind of material.
That's
It's
really
cool. Yeah,
amazing. That's a really cool
that's
like
my idea.
concept or like approach to do this. Like
Okay.
you have so many like it factors. I feel like there are so many like interesting things about what you do, like from the materials to the sourcing to the actual bags itself. Like I can't believe that you make these themed bags. What are some of like the movies or I guess maybe battles or themes that you have created garments around?
For example, there's one like a very cheesy movie with Patrick Swayze and Charlie Sheen. It was called The Red Dawn in 1984. They made a remake now. I haven't seen, but it's a movie where Soviet paratroopers and Cuban soldiers invade the US, and
Mhm.
a small group of young guys, like led by Patrick Swayze and Charlie Sheen, they go into the mountains and become partisan guerrilla fighters. And it's a super cheesy movie. No point, no points about it. You can only watch it ironically. But they didn't have Soviet uniforms in 1984, so they made a proprietary pattern for the movie. It could be like a Soviet pattern. It isn't, but they made it like it, and they made them suits, like oversuits, like the Soviets actually had. They used to have camouflage only as oversuits, very very thin camouflage stuff,
Right.
and they wore it in the movie. They later wore the same suits in Rambo 3, I think it was, when he is in Afghanistan. They use the same kind of pattern, the same suits and everything. And I got a reprint. I found a reprint online of on organic canvas. I found a reprint, and I was like, what kind of bags would they have made in the movie? Like the partisan guys from stuff they captured from the Soviets,
Right.
or what would a Soviet soldier have had made at base, like with a Soviet shirt? I combined it with proper Soviet military gear with the fantasy, so to speak, pattern. And that's one example. I made a small series of bags, different kinds, different sizes. Yeah, that's one example. And then I paired it with movie posters, original movie posters from the 80s, German ones, because that's what I found. Like, I think they're called lobby cards, like they had in the cinema, like smaller ones, with color photos from the movie and scenes. And I sold them like a package, you know. You get a fact sheet, what fabrics were used, you get the original movie poster with the bag, and that's, yeah, that's like 110% of what I'm doing.
This is so cool, Phil. Like you're blowing my mind. You're creating a whole experience. Like I said I'm not a military girly, but I might bite. Like this is very cool.
That's what that's what I'm saying, because you need some kind of, not a unique selling point maybe, but you need to have something to sell. And for me, it's not, I'm not the cheapest because I'm producing by hand in Germany. I'm not the best because I'm not a trained tailor. I all learned myself, or from that guy when I was 16, maybe. So for me, it's the story. I don't have the most innovative idea, like a backpack folding like this or whatever. No, it's a simple messenger bag. It's a Wäschmischok, 100-year-old cut. It's whatever it is. But it's the material for me, and having the story, having a fact sheet with every bag, with the
Oh,
fabrics
totally.
used, like a small sample on it. That's like, yeah, what I have to do, because there is a certain price point and I want to justify it, and that's what I sell. It's the story. It's not the most effective bag, not the most waterproof bag. There's guy making that better and cheaper. That is my specialty, is telling you a story, basically. That's what I try
You
to do.
100% put the storytelling in upcycling.
Like,
Yeah, I mean that's one of my favorite things about upcycling is just like you can't even imagine like the lives it's lived, what it's been through, where it's been,
that's
who it
exactly,
belonged to
yeah.
before. And this is just like a
Yeah.
sweater at the thrift store. But like what you're dealing with is a whole different world and it's really amazing. It's I think this is very magical. You're like Santa. You're Santa Claus.
You know what the real magic is? Then comes internet, because all that only works with internet. I love Instagram and everything. I don't see why people hating on social media. I mean, I see it, but I love it on Instagram. I met so many amazing people. I mean, and I met Owen Thornton, who's an associate producer and custom guy in Hollywood, and he got me in contact because he wanted something for me, with the guy who made the movie in 1984. And he gave me leftover fabric, like 2 yards or something. I was like, dude, I was at that guy last Wednesday. Shall I go there and pick up stuff for you? Like, he's got some fabric left. I said, but
Yes,
of course.
please.
And so now everyone got like a certificate with a real piece of swatch of fabric from the movie with their bags. When I'm gonna make another series about it,
That's
maybe I do.
amazing. I mean, there's nobody else doing what you're doing, and you that
I hope so.
you are one of a
But
kind.
that's only possible with social media, of course, because of course there's a lot of hate and stuff like this. But I've experienced these wonderful things, like Owen reaching out to me, being like, "Dude, that's amazing what you're doing. I like it. Can I get whatever from you?" And I bring you this. I sent you this fabric. I said, "Absolutely."
I mean, it was so amazing finally hearing from you today. So thanks for coming on the show. I mean, it's amazing that you're cleaning up the army world's waste, but also creating these experiences, creating durable bags, because who doesn't love a durable bag, but also just like letting people step into the world of whichever movie or military experience they want to be a part of. So thanks for doing something that no one else is doing. That's incredible.
Thank you,
It's
thank you.
hard to do
It's
that
just what
nowadays,
like it came to me by accident, so to
Yeah,
speak.
I can't take too much
It's
credit.
just like yeah.
In a,
I had to find something I can sell a story. I can just, I can completely, you see how enthusiastically I get just talking about it. And also, we haven't spoken about how I do the things. And that's not a bad thing because you see, it doesn't matter that much. I'm trying to make a living from it. I'm trying. So, of course, it's important. But when you're doing your own stuff at home and when you're doing upcycling and you're like, I can't afford the unique thing to buy it. So I have to make it. The making itself, it's coming to you. It's not important. Nobody will check your seams or what you're doing.
yeah.
It's the idea, at least for me, that's selling. And the making is, yeah, dude, it's boring, it's tedious. Let's be honest, sewing is not always fun.
Yeah, no,
Thinking
fair.
of bags is fun. I would love to have someone sewing for me, but nobody can or nobody wants or whatever. So I'm doing it myself. But that's not the most important part, I think, of the whole upcycling thing. It's the doing the upcycling. I think it's always a mindset of being ready to yeah, it's not fresh, it's not bored, it's not unused. It's something you have to take an X-Acto knife and open up and iron it and stuff like that. That's the most important part, I think.
Oh my God, you are a legend. You are a soldier. You're
Stop it.
a machine. You're a storyteller. You're an upcycler. You are Santa Claus. And I think Santa Claus is German. So no, but thank
Thank
you
you,
so much
actually.
for coming on the show today. Tectonic. I'm just gonna call you Tectonic now. You're like a transformer.
Do whatever you want.
Right. Tectonic Claus.
You can call me any name. I don't care. I live for the upcycling.
Yeah. We're just for the story. We're making movies, baby.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I mean, I know I'm a bit of a talkative guy.
Perfect for a podcast, really. The spirit of upcycling, you said it best. Yeah, it's less about the process and more about like the story behind it. Or I mean,
Yeah.
everyone's philosophy is different, but I like yours. I like yours. And I will be moving to Berlin just so I can take a rework class by the one and only Tectonic. It's a
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I'll see you there. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, well, I mean, this is actually a wrap for season 1 of TNR.
Nice.
We'll be back in February with a whole new roster of zero waste designers to meet and drool over, including Mr. James from Victory Lab, who,
Shout out.
yeah, shout out James. And then also, I do want to take a moment and send a nod, a hug, a kiss to all those unable to spend the holidays with their loved ones due to them being overseas, and those unable to enjoy the holidays due to what's going on in Gaza, the absolute tragedy. I know, I feel the same, and I will link a relief donation into the description. But Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from Tectonic and I, from US to Germany and back. Yeah.